Joining us now by Shay Wildeboor from Jayhawks Slant on the Rivals Network for Kansas. Shay, how's it going, brother?
I'm doing well, man. How are you guys?
I cannot complain. Looking forward to another great game this Saturday. Looking forward to going to the Fog. Have not been there before. It's one of the places I have not been. Someone mentioned earlier that the students are out. And what will it be like with the students?
It'll be packed. It'll be packed.
Because like with Assembly Hall, that's an opportunity for people who don't have tickets to get to go to games. And I assume it's the same thing.
Right. With Kansas. Indiana coming to town, it'll be everything you thought it would be and so much more. I mean, it's just a historic, like I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's a historic venue that just breathes tradition, college basketball, everything that's great about this game. I mean, you'll see the retired jerseys, and there's like a Hall of Fame. I mean, it's college basketball at its finest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. How old is that building?
Oh God, that's you put me on the.
It goes by. It's an old building. Like
all the way back.
Assembly Hall was built to like 71 was the first season they played in Assembly Hall. But yeah, the Fog is an old building. It's like Hinkle Fieldhouse. We were just talking about Hinkle Fieldhouse with Chris Denari. He does the games for the Pacers. It's one of those. A venue very similar, a very old building, but very historic and a great place to
March 1st, 1950. March 1st, 1955.
It's not as old as I even thought it was. So,
yeah.
but that was back in the heyday. That was just built on the back of Kansas, the beginnings of Kansas basketball, because they had played in a national title game in 1950. I think to Indiana, as a matter of fact. Indiana beat Kansas in 1950. So Kansas getting their start in Indiana. That was the time of the birth of the greatness of these programs, I think, because Indiana won their first title in 40, actually in 53 is when Indiana won their second title. But so 2 years before that. So Kansas getting it going. But these two last week, Indiana took on Arizona, two great programs. Those programs had never played before. Unlike Indiana, Kansas, they have a history. They have played together, but getting programs like this together, it's always fun.
You remember the last? I was looking this up yesterday. You remember the last time they played Kansas and Indiana?
In the NCAA tournament.
Oh,
I believe
Honolulu.
In the Maui, wasn't it?
Armed Force Classic.
I thought they played in the Maui.
It was at Honolulu.
Oh.
It was when Thomas Bryant was still playing for Indiana.
Right.
It was those teams.
Frank Mason had like 30 points, went into overtime, and Indiana outscored Kansas in overtime 14-10. And then 3 days later, Kansas went to New York and beat number 1 Duke. So it was kind of they lose to Indiana. Yeah, so yeah, it's been a while. I mean,
and nothing has changed. If you look at college basketball over the past 2 weeks, this team is losing to this team and going to beat that. I was like, what?
Right.
What just happened? Earlier today we were talking Maryland at home to UCLA. It gets run out of the gym. It's like, what the hell happened there? UCLA travels across the entire country and just beats the snot out of Maryland. It's just a weird. That's what makes college basketball great. This season has been great. There's no. I know there are good teams. Arizona's obviously a good team. Kansas is a good team. UConn's a good team, but Purdue.
Who's the team to beat?
But I don't. That's the thing. I don't know that there's a team that has differentiated itself at the top by itself. The same with the Big Ten. We know we thought the Big Ten was going to be like with Indiana, and most of us thought Michigan. Michigan now lost their starting point guard with an ACL, so that's going to really wreck hell on their season. But you've got Illinois, but Purdue, Michigan State. It's just who knows. So that's going to be fun. But it's way before we get to that. We got Indiana and Kansas coming up Saturday, which should be a hell of a game. Both these teams are good. Both have flaws. Where are the flaws in the Kansas team?
I think right now, Jim, I think the biggest thing is finding a guy down low that they can rely on a consistent basis. Last year when they got into trouble, they could throw the ball down to David McCormick. I mean, he scored the 4 biggest points of his career against that title game against Carolina, where he went on a 4-0 run and led them to a national championship. They don't have that this year. They've got an undersized, they've got an undersized 5-man, 4-man in KJ Adams Jr. They've got some young guys coming off the bench. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Thought some young guys coming off the bench, and they just haven't found a guy yet that they can pound the ball in down low and be productive. And even Bill Self said that. He's like, I don't know if we're going to find that this year. So I think going into the game tomorrow, especially when you're going up against a guy like Jackson Davis, I don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to match up with him.
And that was an issue for Indiana against Arizona. They actually had bigger guys to go up against, but Trace Jackson Davis has had a great year up until that point. He had been playing really well, had coming off of the triple double, has had double doubles, but just has had a good season thus far. But his kryptonite is does not have the jump shot. Right. He does all of his work within 4 feet of the basket, and if you get him any further out than that, he's not really comfortable there. But Indiana has tried to loosen it up a little bit with Race Thompson. He's been shooting from outside, although he's one of their bigs. They've been out without Jalen Hood-Schifino, which has allowed teams to kind of pack that back in a little bit. He's, having him out, Jalen on the floor gives Indiana 2 playmakers and takes pressure off of Xavier Johnson, who is now having to take up a lot of the ball handling skills. And it has hurt the team not having Jalen Hood-Schifino out there without question.
Yeah, and the thing about the thing, when this season started, Jim, I wasn't for sure. Anytime you lose Ochai Agbaji, a Christian Brown, a David McCormick, a Remy Martin, I wasn't for sure, how these guys were going to respond. And what they've done is that they've been able to get this 3-headed monster really in Grady Dick, Jalen Wilson, and Kevin McCullough Jr., the transfer from Texas Tech. And so far this year, aside from the Tennessee game, those 3 guys have played really well. You've got a point guard, and DeJuan Harris that's never going to get the credit he deserves. That's been really, playing well right now. They just go into Missouri, a heated rival, and really just blow the doors off them. So, I'm interested to see, they've had a week off, come home tomorrow, play a really good Indiana team, and kind of see if they can build on that, that trip to Columbia. But again, the Jackson Davis thing, I think, with Kansas is probably really concerning, simply because if KJ Adams struggles, if Ernest Uday struggles, if Zubi Ejiofor can't defend him, as Zach Clemens, I just don't know if they have an answer for him down low.
And that, and I said earlier, I expect Trace Jackson Davis to play like his hair's on fire because of the last game against Arizona. They were able to keep him bottled up in that paint, but they had size, and they had size not just in height. They were big. Ballo was just a huge human being, and there's just no getting around him. And if Kansas does not have something to stop that, that will allow the Indiana to really. They've made their meat and potatoes in the paint. They've outscored virtually every team they played in the paint, and that was not the case last week. And that's where they make their bones. And now you've got Miller Kopp shooting the ball well to add to that. If it continues, Indiana has a good chance to go in to Fog and pull off the upset, but it's going to take a day where Miller Kopp is shooting the ball well and Trace Jackson Davis is having his way down low.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Bill. I don't know if you guys have watched Kansas much this year. He has a quick – if he doesn't like a matchup with a particular player, he's going to pull that guy. So, I don't think if they don't have success early against Jackson Davis, it's going to be interesting to see kind of what he does. Because I think he knows deep down inside that's the key to Indiana. And if he can't defend that, or if things aren't working out well, it's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts. If he maybe throws a junk defense at him, or tries to switch things up, trap the post, whatever it may be. But it's gonna be interesting to see kind of how that battle goes on all day long.
Kansas, 3 players in double figures, averaging 3 players in double figures. Jalen Wilson, 22 points a game. He's got 22 3-pointers. He's averaging almost 10 rebounds a game, so averaging almost a double-double. And with 3.2 assists. So, man, he's really guiding it for the Jayhawks. You mentioned Grady Dick, 15 points a game. He's shooting 46% on 3-point shooting as well. And Kevin McCullough, he's averaging almost 12 points a game and pulling down 7 rebounds. So that's the guy in the middle for Kansas, I guess. What are they doing offensively to offset the lack of a big.
Well, the guys are, I mean, they're getting out there running. I mean, and the thing to me, you guys, that's been really fun to like Grady. I knew Grady Dick was going to be good as a freshman, but I had no idea he was going to be as good as he's been. I mean, he's coming in, hitting shots. Jalen Wilson offensively is kind of become a guy that can score from all three levels. He can score from beyond the arc. He can get to the basket. He has the mid-range game. Can score in transition. All these guys, these three-headed monster guys, that they can all score from all three levels of the court. And then, you throw in a guy like DeJuan Harris, who maybe get you 6 to 8 points a game. Off the bench, sometimes you're going to have some success. But those three guys, I mean, when they're on, they're hitting shots, getting to the basket, scoring in transition. Last game, Kevin McCullough had 5 steals. So offense leads to defense in that regard. That's an area of emphasis that's always been big with Bill. You got to play defense. To me, he's got really 2 elite defenders in McCullough and in DeJuan Harris. So yeah, I mean, it's been a combination of things, but guys hitting shots, getting out in transition, and really defense leading offense. I mean, 5 steals. I mean, that was huge against Missouri. Playing in a hostile environment just kind of quieted that crowd quick, and offense kind of just took over.
Yeah, for Indiana, the key is rebounding and free throws. If Indiana's out rebounding the team, they're going to win. Yep. They have been, I think, plus 10 average, being around almost plus 4 rebounding margin per game so far in the early part of the season. Against Arizona, they were minus 10 on the rebounding side, and against Rutgers, they were minus 5. So if Indiana out rebounds a team, that shows you that they're kind of having what they want to get down low, obviously, and free throws. This is a team that has been getting to the free throw line a lot as well. But when that doesn't happen, things also go awry. They were a minus 10 in free throws against Arizona and negative 5 against Rutgers. So those are 2 keys to watch and ways to get Indiana's kind of off their offensive game plan.
Yeah, the one thing I can tell you is that Bill will have them. I mean, he knows how important the rebounding game will be. I mean, if Kansas comes in and gets dominated on the glass, if you go back, I would suggest anybody just going back and looking at the Tennessee box score. Kansas got absolutely pounded on the glass in the Battle for Atlantis championship game. Pounded. I mean, they just had absolutely no answer for Tennessee, a team that was bigger, a little bit more physical, and they just had no answer for them. I mean, and there were times when, KU would get within 8 or 6, but you never felt like it was really a game, because Tennessee, I mean, they're just a different team that KU hadn't faced this year, and just presented a bunch of challenges on the glass. I mean, if KU is going to go up against a big team like that, they're going to have to really play extremely well to be successful, simply because they don't have guys in there, at least guys that are experienced, that are ready to get on the glass and battle like that. I mean, like their best guy, KJ Adams, is extremely undersized, and it's going to be, again, interesting. I hate to say it again, tomorrow, to see kind of what happens, how they handle that matchup down low, because I think it's going to be huge to the outcome of the game. I mean, if they can't handle Jackson Day, they're in trouble. I mean, they're going to have to be able to contain the glass, like you said. Indiana's 0-2 against when they've been out rebounded.
And the only loss that the Kansas has, the Tennessee you mentioned, is when they got killed.
Pounded on the glass. So, yeah.
Very the key for them, they beat a number 22 Wisconsin team early from the Big Ten earlier this season. They've been tested. They played a North Carolina State team.
I think Duke beat them on the glass too, I believe. I'd have to go back and look. But I think Duke is the only team that didn't beat them that won on the glass, I believe.
So this is going to be and then now you've got to add in the fact that India is playing in Fog Allen, one of the most difficult places to play. It's going to be, for Indiana to actually win this game, it's going to be very difficult, because you have everything has to go right. They have to do the things that we're talking about that they did not get done against Arizona, and they have to do it against the most hostile crowd that they're probably going to face this season.
Yeah, it'll be a big time. Listen, I've seen teams come in there, Jim, that thought they were ready. That just look completely lost. And I've seen teams that I never thought would have a chance come in and just, completely take care of business. So it really just depends on, what happens tomorrow, who shows up, the start of the game. From pregame to tip to everything, it's just, how's the day going to go? And tomorrow will just be one of those days where you tip the ball and find out and see what happens. If KU struggles to score, right, okay, can't get anything going down low, can't defend, it's going to be a long day. But if they come out, hit shots, get out in transition, defense leads to offense, they find a way to contain Jackson Davis. I mean, it's just the game is what it is, and we love it the way it is because there's so many unknowns.